Welcome back, everyone, to Living Your Greatness. And I'm super excited because this is the second speaker, part of a series called Building Generational Wealth. And this all came about of friends my age, millennials, asking about, hey, how do we build wealth? And, I see you've interviewed a lot of financial individuals. And so, long story short, that was kind of like the inspiration. And so I had reached out to two people that I appreciate, Michael Gentile as well as Daniela Cambone, who's sitting right in front of me virtually right now. So I just want to start off before anything, Daniela, good to see you, good to have you back, and super excited to do a little chit chat with you today and catch up.
Thank you. I'm honored. It's always nice to catch up with you and yeah, just love speaking with fellow Montrealers who are making a difference. So I want to thank you, Ben, for everything you're doing to help spread the word.
I
You're
appreciate
doing
that.
great work. Yeah.
I appreciate those kind of words. And honestly, yeah, I kind of feel that too. When you see someone that's from your hometown and doing incredible work and educating people, which is my biggest thing. Like I think I teach college phys ed at Dawson College,
Yes.
and I'm a big fan of making sure that we always educate first. And that's actually kind of why I reached out to you and Michael Gentile, before putting on this series and then getting other people from our network to also be part of the series, but online, is I really feel education is so important. So I kind of want to start off, before we get kicking here, you are from Montreal, you went in journalism, and then all of a sudden, boom, you became a financial journalist. So if you could give more context, I know your story, but maybe some people
Sure.
right now don't know it, so I would
I'll
love to
give
hear it.
I'll give the condensed version, but I hope to serve as an inspiration to the folks and people and young guys watching who maybe didn't love math because I always say had you told me in high school. So I knew I wanted to be a journalist since I was like 3 years old. Um, but had you told me I would be a financial journalist, I would have laughed in your face and been like, I'm the last person on earth that's going to be a financial journalist. I was sure I wanted to be a political journalist. And I ended up doing that, being a political journalist, and really not enjoying it. So I love doing political analysis, and I still incorporate a lot of politics into my show today. But that chasing down politicians was not my thing, and I ended up falling in love with financial journalism like by chance. So in high school, they think, oh, if you don't love math or you have to really work at it, then maybe you shouldn't go into commerce or economics. But that's so wrong. That mind frame is so wrong because yeah, I still don't love math, but I love economics and I understand how money works and I understand how economy works. And I get to practice that every day and love it. So it was only by chance that I ended up falling in love with it because if I had stayed on the path that school felt I should be on, I'd still be that political journalist and probably hating what I do.
No, I,
So that
I
was kind of my unconventional path to where I am.
no, I totally hear you there, and something that I think is very unique and kind of your gift, Danielle, and I totally mean this, but when we have that kind of approach that, math didn't come easy to you, but then learning about the financial world, you're like, oh, as I learn more and more and more, this is actually a really cool world, right? So your openness, and I think the biggest thing that always stands out to me, when I tune into any of your interviews is really you are a people artist. You know how to take the best from someone else and really showcase that side of them. But while also doing that as well with yourself, right? So you know to bring out the best of yourself as well as others in a very educational and personal way, which is what I really value. And again, another reason why I reached out to you. Um,
I really appreciate you saying that. I really do.
it's a
Um,
gift. It's a gift.
I think I realized like why I knew I wanted journalism was because I love people's stories. And I always said everyone has a story if you're able to get it out of them. But everyone has a fascinating story. It's not just celebrities or famous financial gurus.
Mhm.
Everyone has an interesting story. And it's just listening and caring. And I think that's why I loved and wanted to go into journalism because I saw it as that's a career that's going to allow me to do what I like to do, and that's getting to know people.
Mhm.
And it's a gift. It's a career that, look, I've met you because of it.
Yeah.
So, and I think you're phenomenal. And I've met so many incredible people because of it. So thank you for saying that.
No, I mean every word, and I think it even adds to, there's a lot of people that are doing great work, and some people are really known because they get the spotlight a lot. But then what I love about you, and I mean this from my heart, it's like you have really seen and heard people, big or small. You see their voice, you see their value, you see their gifts that they have to the world, and you're able to really bring that out. So that's kind of why if you look up the term people artistry, like you got Daniela Cambone all over it. But I kind of want to transition now. Like one there's some people that are going to be listening to this, and they might not be a millennial, they might not be a Gen Z, they might be a baby boomer, they might even be, you know, uh, I think it's generational X, or they might be man or woman,
Yeah.
like the list could go on, or skin of color.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to, I find when I've been going to, different financial conferences, investing in myself before I even go out there. And then when I'm out there, really like there's
Yep.
all types of people. And I feel more than ever a calling to hold a space, which is also going to be part of this series, is like it's not just my generation that I'm concerned for, it's all generations, all people. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is I can't help but, ask, even though I see you doing that in your work, you really impacted, my father, Andre, my brother, myself. You were one of the first journalists that I followed in the financial world. But what I'm getting at is there are sometimes woman, that could feel very, very scared. They're like, no, that's for the hubby, or no, I'm not good with numbers. And, your story, you just talked a little bit about it, about math, but I'm curious more to get your feel of how could you maybe share right now, just like for people that are nervous, whether they're man or woman, or whether, just like they had no mentor in their life or father figure that taught them about money. What advice would you just kind of give out right away?
Yeah. I would say, first of all, that's so true what you just said. Um, And I want to say to those listening and are afraid, you are not alone. And it's perfectly normal to be intimidated because I speak to people who are even scared to walk into a bank. They find that still intimidating, right? Because they don't know the questions to ask. And I find when obviously I'm speaking gold investing here, but the first thing that most women will say to me is like, I think I want to invest in gold, but I don't want to feel stupid. I don't want to call. I don't know the right questions. And I say, you know what? If you're dealing with a professional, they'll know the questions to ask you. You actually, it's okay. Like there's no stupid question. Everyone has to start somewhere. So, even if you don't know how gold is priced or how it works in a portfolio, this is all normal. No one starts by knowing any of this because unfortunately, we're not taught any of this in school, right? We're just taught like traditional markets. If you do go into economy and commerce, no one's teaching about gold investing, for example. Um, or how to do your taxes or how to pick stocks or none of this is really taught. So I think it's completely normal to be overwhelmed, scared, but I think you're onto something, and I think banks are catching on to it. I saw this ad from UBS recently. They're making a hard pitch to women because they realize that women hold the power to the future of investing. They are inheriting generational wealth. They maybe are now managing the family's portfolio. So women are becoming actually the biggest and most important investors in the world. And so many of them don't even know where to begin. And we have to help educate people. And honestly, this is the most basic information, but just start. Just start asking the questions. That's it. And then what I find with women I've worked with and now have become so in deep is they just started the process. And I say, even if you just start by buying, and I'm using gold again as an example, but like, even if it's like a half an ounce of gold, but you buying gold or buying silver will force you to then start learning about it because all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, I saw this article. Like you may have not seen it before and read about it. And then you'll start the learning process and you'll see how far you've come in 6 months and a year. So it's honestly just starting and knowing there's no stupid question, you're not alone, and no one walks in like a guru.
I think that's really good advice. And I would even say, I tend to give a lot of life advice, like beyond even like the financial world. And it's like, it's just like anything, if you've never ran before, it's like, well, just start by even walking and then eventually, doing a 2K, jog, run, and then eventually you build up, right? And so
Yeah, that's
it's
such a good
the same
analogy,
thing.
Ben. Yeah, and because like you're an athlete, right? So what do you tell people, like a lot of women again, who are afraid to enter a gym and you see all this machinery? It's like I see people doing this with their biceps or this, or how do I know how to like move the weights up or down? Like, what do you tell people who are scared of a gym? I think it's the same thing with like your finances,
It is. It is. No, it
right?
really is. And I think sometimes we forget it doesn't matter what area of well-being. It's you don't have to go all in right away. Like sometimes people like feel like, okay, anything, right? Like you will see
Right.
people literally go all in, into a running journey in week one and then they get injured, right? So same thing with investing. You don't want somebody to get hurt,
Right.
financially, and then, they have a bad experience. I think it's really simple, which we kind of started with, educate yourself first, learn a lot, and you could slowly, as you get more competent, you'll get more confident. And as you get more confident, there's no perfect timing, but you could slowly then make small little investment decisions
Right.
because it really is a journey. I feel like it's not emphasized enough, but it's like our financial journey is a journey. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to have successes,
Yeah.
take two
Oh,
steps forward, one
yes.
step back, right? And so sometimes we also forget, I feel there's so much focus, so much on like the noise in like the financial world, like, oh, crypto's going to the moon or this or that or meme stocks. But it's like, wait, before we even make any decision, how do we get better connection to thyself, of who you are, what you're trying to do, just like a fitness journey, right?
Exactly. It's such a good analogy. And I think the other thing is know what you're looking to accomplish. Just like with fitness, is it weight loss? Is it muscle building? What do you want to accomplish, right? Um, and it's the same thing because and I'm using women as an example here because I have a lot of women friends who will call me and be like, I want to be in Bitcoin. Why? Like I asked them, wait, why do you want to do that? Before you go and put like $100,000 in Bitcoin, that's fine. I'm not here to judge. I'm not a financial advisor, but like why do you want to do that? Right? Like, are you looking for a quick return or is it long-term growth? What's the strategy? And that will also help determine what you should be investing in. But just know what you're investing in. Don't jump on bandwagons. Don't run with the latest because you think, I got to follow the herd.
Mhm.
Sometimes really going against the herd will work best to your advantage. So yeah, like fitness, figure out what are you looking to accomplish because if not, you're going to fail fast. You might like work out for 2 weeks and get over it. And just like that, investing is like long term. This is it for forever. Like you're investing, at least my investment philosophy is I'm investing to create generational wealth, which is the title of the event you're holding, but it's really because I believe in wanting to create generational wealth that I can give to my kids. So, and that they'll be able to hopefully give to their kids and whatever. So, yeah. So know why you're doing something. Do it with purpose.
I love that. And so I actually want to go from there. What does generational wealth mean to you? And, why do you feel it's so important? Not only beyond the financial domain, but even all areas of wealth, right? We got to be physically wealthy, we got to be emotionally wealthy, right? Spiritually wealthy, intellectually wealthy, so we could pass down the education side. But yeah, what does generational wealth mean to you and why is it so important to you?
Well, generational wealth for me means putting your money to work and it not just dying in a bank account. I want to be able to leave a legacy for my kids. And like to your point, I want to show up the best possible way for them, like physically, so I work out, the food we're eating at home, and also hopefully leaving them some nest egg, right, that they can then keep putting to work. And I never would want them to be stressed financially. I'm not saying to just hand things over to your kids, but you want to give them some sort of that freedom that comes with creating generational wealth, or maybe being able to do what they want to do if they want to be an entrepreneur or take risks or so it comes down to also really, like I said, putting your money to work and being smart about your money, right? And
Mhm.
realizing, well, if I just my money in cash, that keeps being devalued, and people don't even realize that. I mean, I just had Rick Rule on, who told me that he thinks that,
Mm.
I'm speaking in dollar terms, he thinks the US dollar is going to devalue another 75% from here in the next 10 years. So you want to have some allocation in cash to be able to go in and buy things, assets, but you also want to put your money to work and keep the preservation of that money. And for me, gold is that answer. For others, it's other assets, but a part of that big equation for me is investing in gold, and preserving that wealth and being able to pass that money down to my children one day.
Yeah, no, I hear you on everything that you just said, and I'm also glad that you mentioned Rick Rule because he's part of the series as well, as you know. And the reason why I want to touch on him just quickly is I think he's a great example of holistic wealth, like he's so generous with his time. Like when I've gone to conferences, this gentleman is literally running to every next interview. And I'm like, man, I feel like he has like 25 lives or something here, golden retriever mode, and just so genuine to educate. Um, and
He
yeah.
That's what he loves doing, man. Like if you speak to him, that's at the core, like that's his purpose
Mhm.
is education. So you're speaking to his soul. So when go
Yeah.
up to him, you're fulfilling his soul, because I generally believe that's what he loves doing the most.
Absolutely. And I also find it interesting because sometimes, people will be like, oh, he says a lot of the same things a lot. And it's like, yeah, because they're principles. And if we understand those principles at any
Uh,
time, humans are so emotional, right? So anytime we can make a
uh,
silly decision, even Rick has admitted himself, he's like, sometimes he's made decisions where he's like, oh, I should have bought more than that, if it's in terms
yeah,
of investing or buying more, but I didn't because of,
yeah,
like, so, anyways, without going off topic there, I have one final question because I want to make sure
yeah.
we share for the full format with you and Michael in Montreal. But you've sat down with a lot of incredible people that I think are wealthy again beyond like the financial side, that I actually think too that are very spiritually connected to themselves. And so, my next question is like, I want to hear your opinion on how do you think yourself or anyone can build generational wealth? Because I'm sure you've learned a lot of principles that are common in all the great minds that you've interviewed that have helped you, become more financially wealthy.
I think again, it's basic, but just you have to start somewhere. And I think the main thing to realize, and again, this is not taught in school, is that your salary is going to be enough to create generational wealth. Two, just keep money in the bank account. I don't think we're taught about devaluing currencies.
Mm,
And first have to understand there's a world beyond fiat currency, beyond paper money. There are other assets. The problem is if you watch CNBC and whatnot, they'll be like, just go in the stock market. So people will just buy a basket of stocks. And sure, great. The S&P has had a great 10 years and you may have done well, but you want to diversify, because as we saw with the tariffs and uncertainty, what all of a sudden that did to stocks, and people who are close to retiring all of a sudden lost, possibly millions.
mhm,
So want to find a constant. And Frank Justroy says gold is the constant. And again, I'm not biased, but like I've seen how gold has put my money to work. And for me, that's the solution. For other people, it might be Bitcoin or
mhm,
certain ETFs. That's great. Just find whatever works for you. But I think the first step to building generational wealth is realizing, well, your salary is not enough to
mm,
do it. So how do you make your salary grow? Where should you be parking some of that, right? So, trying to save money, maybe cut out your Starbucks coffees and start allocating that money that you would save per month into an asset that's going to allow your money to grow
mhm.
or be put to work. Is a better uh, phrase I would use. And realizing that you have to think outside of traditional boxes because I'm not going to get into the whole reason of why they want you in that, but it has to be beyond just cash in a bank.
Mhm.
Your cash is dying there. So you have to really look at other options.
I hear you. And
And so
I even think too, when you say, like put your money to work, I think you also refer to compounding, right? So if we're making the right
I know
decision,
Michael, yeah, yeah,
right?
you got to put your money to work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if you're just counting on thinking government's going to be there or, I have enough with my salary, like, yeah, you're not going to create generational wealth. So, I mean, unless your salary is like, a million plus a year, it's just not going to cut it.
No, and I'm glad you mentioned that because another factor, sometimes people are like, oh man, it's such a hard time right now, with government debt or even housing prices or even people thinking, I don't make enough salary to even invest, right? Like there's always like those stories that we tell ourselves. But really I feel sometimes like the more that we can learn, about ourselves or different ways of making financial money, not only through investing, but even like Danielle, you're a great example of it, where even through a passion that you have for journalism, I know it's your career, but you've also found other ways to create wealth, through adding value to people, right? And that's like another area where, you could create that even before you decide to invest, right? Like through passions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And some people just like you said, fall in love with it. But I think a lot of times people think they need a lot of money to invest, and that's another misconception, Ben. And that's so good that you said that because I don't think you really do. You could start small. You don't have to buy ounces of gold bars. I mean, now they're 3,500 an ounce. When I started, gold was $800 an ounce, and that just shows you, how your money can grow had you invested in gold since then, right? Um, so I think even if you can just do like $100 a month, whatever it is,
Mhm.
just start and it will start making sense. Things will just start making sense. Then you'll start seeing things on your radar you didn't see before. Like all of a sudden you'll see those conferences that always existed, but you never thought maybe I should attend, or you'll start listening to people, or maybe you'll pick up a copy of Ray Dalio's Principles and read it, and you'll start seeing the path. It sounds like the Matrix, but it's true. Like it will just
It's so true.
things will just start making I don't know how else to explain it. It's so bizarre, but you'll start seeing it. Like you, Ben, right? Like how did you saw the path, you see it,
Yeah, but you know what?
right?
It's so funny you mentioned that. Like it took a little bit of time, right? Like my story, I still remember, and I'm more than happy to share this because I probably
Uh,
haven't shared it enough. And my voice is
yeah.
just as important as you, but I still remember 2016 being in Halifax, and my brother Nick happened to be, in Halifax at the same time. And he said, hey, let's go grab food by the water. And I was there visiting friends, and I said, okay, cool, yeah, let's go do dinner. And I ended up going for dinner with him. And at the time, he was, I think, just concerned about educating me. He's like, okay, I know you're in your last year at McGill, you just have enough savings to take care of your rental costs, et cetera, et cetera. And at the time, he said, I just want you to be educated about look around, at this restaurant. Okay, there's food, people are wearing things, but I want you to be mindful or aware of what is real money or real tangible assets. And he started talking about gold. And I remember at the time, I definitely believed my brother. I definitely
Yeah.
listened to my brother. But again, I
Yeah.
was I was so young and nervous and do I have like the money to afford it, right? But that was actually the first time it was seriously put on my radar. And it was funny because I had already been reading books that I love, by Tim Ferriss or even Robert Kiyosaki in terms of like the investment world. So I was huge on personal growth, but I didn't feel at the time, ready to invest. Like I told myself a story that I'm still too young or I don't
Yeah.
know enough, right? And so it's just funny how things play out. But then without me going too long, eventually, my father and I had another chat, a couple years later. I was a couple years older and wiser. And at the time, and you know what, I'm thankful, he just kind of shared like you have to educate yourself, just like even what Nick told you a couple years ago. And there's incredible opportunities right now in a very hard time in the world. And so slowly I started to learn in the space. And I remember asking my dad, and me being like how I am is, who are the most trusted voices that you follow? Because I knew that once I get learning, I'll also be able to not just see things more clearly, but I'll also be able to help him as well, cover his blind spots, and my brother Nick. And so it was pretty funny, but without getting too much into it, you were one of the names that he recommended. I think you were finishing with Kitco at the time because it would have been 2018. And
Right.
there was a couple other names he told me at the time because I knew nothing about real financial fiduciaries rather than salesmen. Pardon?
Yeah. I said that's
And
very sweet of your dad. Shout
yeah,
out to Ben's dad.
yeah, big shout out. I'm really proud because even like at the time, he's like, you gotta listen to people like Rick Rule,
But,
and that's
yeah,
kind of
but
what
you're
started
lucky.
my journey.
Yeah, but you're lucky. You see, most people don't have that. Like they
Yeah.
don't have the dad or the brother or the sister or the mother, whatever. So that's a blessing, Ben, that you have that in your life. Someone who kind of just not showed you another world, but showed you, wait, there's another path than what you've just been told. I think that's truly powerful. So you are blessed. Like
Mhm.
that's truly easy.
I
That's real wealth.
I totally agree. And I think on top of that, like, that was part of my social wealth that contributed to me, getting
Yeah.
curious, right? But what was crazy
I know.
too was like I've always been very entrepreneurship driven and creative, but I was thinking that the only way to start my wealth was through, writing and, like literally making like a business, which I have been doing. But at the time it was more like, hey Ben, there's other ways you could be putting that money to use while you are building
Right.
these things that you're passionate about. But I just want to just transition here, Daniela. We're going to be talking more. I'm really excited. Honestly, I just want to speak from the heart right now. I was really honored. I had a self-limiting belief maybe a couple of months ago. I was like, yeah, I want to put on this series. If I could get Michael, one-on-one, that will be great because I've seen how much he stood out to me, not only, in the
Yes.
financial world, but even he's very connected to himself. He gives a lot back to his family of five. I'm from a family of five. But anyways, long story
Yes.
short, I had a self-limiting belief that I was like, okay, wait, Daniela's in New York City. Are we going to be able to line up the schedules? And then we have a mutual friend who I want to give a shout out to, Desiree, who has a big heart.
Desiree.
Desiree, and both yourself as well as her showed me that it is possible right now where I knew I had the social wealth, but I didn't know. I'm like, oh man, like, do I have enough financial costs in my budget, to fly her down and this and that, and like thinking like, oh, I'm not there yet. That's why I'm not going to put the invitation out. But I'm so happy that, she encouraged me and helped me to reach out to you, and then for you to just be so
Yeah.
generous to say, hell yeah, So, yeah, just kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, I just want to
Yeah.
say I
Well, she's
appreciate that.
Desiree works. She's, and I think I'm so lucky to have had the high school experience I had. I know a lot of people did not have a good high school experience, but it's not so much the education I always say, but the network. And even though it's been years I've seen Desiree, I'm going to see her now on the 29th of May, and I'm so excited. But I feel like when Desiree calls me, it's like no time has passed. So even if we haven't seen each other in years, that's how strong that connection was in high school, that I could likely call anyone I went to high school with, and it would be like no time passed, and I'm going to be there for them. So when she said, would you be willing to do this and help Ben? I was like, yeah, I'm going to give back. I want to do it. I want to do it. Obviously, you're a Montrealer. I love Desiree. I think she's, anyone watching, Desiree is a true believer in just manifesting
Mhm.
what you want. And I think she helps see that, right? She's a true believer in that. And she's a powerhouse. And I'm excited to see her. Like I said, that connection means so much to me. Those friendships mean everything to me. Again, that's really wealth. That's true wealth. So I think it's crazy that we were just connected through Desiree,
Mhm.
and this is happening, and I'm excited to take part and to see Michael, a voice I truly respect. He's a twin dad. I'm a twin
Mhm.
mom, so we have that connection and understanding. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
I love that. Well, yeah, I just want to end off excited to see you in Montreal and excited to just say again to the audience that's tuning in, it will be at Connections Rally, a beautiful space. I'm always very selective with, I don't know, just creating a meaningful experience. So again, it's a space. There's no more than 100 people. Keep it intimate. I want to say again that I don't advertise this as like a financial conference. This is, an opportunity to learn about financial education in a space that is going to be very inclusive to all. People have been asking me, how should I dress for this event? I said, just come as you are.
Ah,
So I
okay.
just,
I was gonna say, what do I wear?
whatever feels
Yeah.
like you, right? And
Uh, uh,
I find when we're our most authentic self in any community is usually when we lead without a title and we truly make meaningful connections, which goes with the space connection. So I just want to end off here. Daniela, thanks for making this happen. And I'm super excited to see you soon.
we will see you soon. Thanks, Ben.